Hey, how far are you away? Okay, all right, so I'll hold off about 2 minutes. Okay. All right.
You're gonna make it in 2 minutes. Still can't make it in 2 minutes. You probably on 33. It is. That's like lunch.
No, from up at Grand Rapids, Gerald, International. Oh, okay. Big deal. I didn't know, what did you do down there?
So quiet. That's what New Year's resolution, remain quiet.
He's a special agent. Yeah, police. Oh, really? Yeah, that's what color it is.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and get started. Mr. Bradley's route. So would everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
President Taylor,
Present.
Vice President Crowder,
Present.
Ms. Rush, President, Ms. Watley Seeds,
Present.
Ms. Buchanan,
Present.
Mr. Bradley, I'll hold on that, Mr. Watson.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, may I have a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Moved by trustee Buchanan. May I have a support?
Order.
Who supported first?
Watley.
All right, so supported by Denise Watley Seats. Any questions, comments, concerns regarding tonight's agenda? Madam Secretary?
President Taylor,
Yes.
Vice President Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes, Ms. Watley Seeds.
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan.
Yes.
Mr. Bradley. Mr. Watson.
Yes.
All right, so let's make sure, ladies and gentlemen of the audience and the board, that our phones are on vibrate, because we have a meeting and we don't want any disturbances. At this time, may I have anyone in the community interested in public participation come forward? You have 3 minutes to speak. And please state your name and address. Mr. Bias, are you gonna present?
Yes.
All right.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Daviana McFall, a junior at Benton Harbor High School. I am Mrs. Jones. Did you know the original building used for Benton Harbor City Hall was built in 1886 for the fire department as engine house #1 when Benton Harbor was still a village? And now the building is renamed Dr. Wilsey Building. Read more about it in the month of June. Hi, my name is Anaya Daniels, and I'm an 11th grader in Benton Harbor High School, and I'm Miss February. Did you know Charles Bessett Brown was one of the top oral maxillofacial surgeons in the country, and he was born here in Benton Harbor, Michigan? Also, Miss Betty Shern Cole opened the first Black-owned dry cleaners in Benton Harbor, Michigan. Read more about these two icons in the month of February. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Shaterica Walker. I am from Dream Academy. I'm in the 12th grade. I'm reading from November. In October 1960, the Space Kitchen, Earth Space Kitchen, was made for Whirlpool Corporation. Read more in November.
Great, lady.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tyena Taylor, and I am a senior at Benton Harbor High School, and I am Miss August. Did you know that in the early 1900s, the Saltminster Mineral Bath and Hotel was made here in the city of Benton Harbor, where everyone from all over the world came to be cured and to be healed? Thank you.
Thank you.
You did a nice job, lady.
Thank you very much, Benton Harbor Area School Board and all of the participants in this room. We are the Benton Harbor After School History Program, and I am so proud to present a few of our students in the program. What they did, they just shared just a tad bit of what we have been doing in the last couple months here at Benton Harbor Area Schools, which consists of the high school and Dream Academy. We have been teaching them the rich history of Benton Harbor, and we are proud to produce and also to distribute to you tonight our 2020 Benton Harbor History Calendar, which you will be able to be inspired as well as be educated about the rich history of Benton Harbor. That's only one project that we have. There are more to come. They will take this rich history of Benton Harbor that they have actually been learning for several months, and we are now going to use multimedia to now educate the world about the rich history of Benton Harbor. Stay tuned. There's more, much more yet to come. Ms. Dorsey?
Hi, my name is Shiraz Dorsey, and I just joined the team. trying to let people, these young people know about our history. I was born and raised here. I'm even finding out some things because I never knew about that Salt Hotel where people would come around. I didn't know about the spring water though. So let's give these people a chance and thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Here you go.
Anyone else for public participation? The young lady talked about C. Bassett Brown, but not only was he one of the best male facial surgeries in the country, he was the first Black in the United States. So that's even a more powerful statement. And he was also the first Black basketball player to play at Western Michigan University too. So he broke a lot of barriers. All right, so no one else for public participation. At this time, may I have the approval of minutes from December 12th, 2019, or December 12th, the 9th of December, the 10th of December, and the 16th of December. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Watson. May I have support? Supported by Trustee Luke Buchanan. Any questions, comments, concern regarding the 3 minutes or 3 meeting minutes or, minutes mentioned? Yes, it's something. All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
President Taylor,
Yes.
Vice President Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes, Ms. Watley Seeds.
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. At this time, may I have a motion for the approval of the superintendent contract?
So moved.
Moved by Secretary Rush, supported by Treasurer Seats. Any questions, comments, concerns before we call the roll?
Can we ask questions afterwards
What kind of questions?
about, well, like about the starting time and transition and stuff like that?
Yes, we can, yeah, because I want to have him tell us all of that.
Okay.
If that's okay with you, Superintendent. All right? Madam Secretary?
President Taylor,
Yes.
Vice President Crowder. Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Watley Seeds.
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Bradley.
Yes.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
motion passes.
So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you our new superintendent, Dr. Townsend. Please come take your seat. You want my chair, too? All right, so Superintendent, we have questions for the floor about start times, et cetera. We'll start with Secretary Rush. Go ahead and let us know.
Test. First and foremost, thank you. Very humbled and honored for the opportunity. Very, very excited to get started. I think the question was, when do I start? My school district goes on our mid-winter break, February 17th through the 21st. That's when I expect to be in Benton Harbor. It gives me the opportunity to give a legitimate 30-day notice, the way my contract reads in Wayne Westland, and I expect to send my farewell letter this evening. I was waiting officially get the contract approved so I can alert my district.
So I have another question.
Yes, ma'am?
So, we're, very happy to have you. Also, we're already headed toward the end of the school year. And so there's a lot of things that need to be done over the next, 5-6 weeks until you come. Particularly tonight, we're gonna talk about the State Advisory Committee. And so I just am wondering, I believe that we've already set up an email for you, is that right?
Yeah.
So whether, to what extent, I just think we need guidelines about what you need to be notified about, because there's employees that are kind of in the middle of being hired. I'm particularly thinking about the finance department, where
Sure.
we're trying to beef up our accounting and our payroll because of other transitions. I'm also thinking about the state, and I just wondered, you won't officially, I guess, till February 17th, be able to say yes or no, but I think it would be good if you were
Some
informed.
input. And thank you for that. This Thursday, I will be in Lansing with Joyce Parker and Pearson. So I did set up some meetings already. Additionally, Ms. Robinson and I will be in contact this week to discuss different human resources issues, because I know it's some things that need to occur. It's kind of up in the air. Right now, I do trust the team that they've been working in good faith. And the goal is just to be in the loop at the point, but not halt process that's going to ultimately impact young people. So once I touch base with Ms. Robinson, I think we'll be on point with that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else from the board? All right, so now we're at the point for the organizational section. The 2020 board organization. If you click on that tab, I don't know, Ms. Lou, can you get to that page as well, or we can go through it. It's online here if you can connect. Yeah. So I'll read it off. And so item A is the appointment of recording secretary for the calendar year 2020.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
what's the difference between the secretary and the recording secretary? Is Sue's the recording secretary?
Yes.
Okay, I nominate Ms. West.
Okay, so we have a motion to nominate Mrs. West for the appointment of recording secretary. Do I have the support?
Support.
All right. So Madam Secretary, call the roll.
President Taylor,
Yes.
Vice President Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes, Ms. Watley Seeds.
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Watson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So item B, so that's the appointment of the secretary, Ms. Buchanan. So you didn't understand it, or?
No, I was trying to show me how to work the computer.
Okay,
Give my password, I don't have it.
okay, that's okay. So I'll explain it that way as you can understand it. So item B, legislative delegate to the Michigan Association of School Boards. So anyone want to take that nomination? Mr. Bradley, would you like that nomination?
Yeah.
Because I know you like the MASP King now, so. All right. So I have a motion for Mr. Bradley. Do I have a support?
Support.
All right, so we have a motion and a support. Madam Secretary?
President Taylor,
Yes.
Vice President Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes, Ms. Watley Seeds.
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yeah.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Watson.
Yes.
All right, so section C is, we need a nomination for representation to the Berrien Cass School Boards Association and the Berrien Regional Education Service Agency. So what that is that when Barry and Risa they have board meetings, right? Then each school district has a rep that can vote at those meetings when they have that meeting. So you always have to have a representative and an alternate, just in case that person doesn't show up. Would anyone like to volunteer for the representative to the Bering Cass School Boards Association and the Bering Regional Education Service Agency? I think it's like once a month. All right, so Ms. Lou volunteered. So I make a motion that Lou Buchanan be the representative. Do I have support? It's supported by Mr. Bradley. Madam Secretary?
The alternative now, alternate now.
Yeah, we can do both at the same time. So I'll alternate with Ms. Buchanan.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes, Ms. Watley Seeds, Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, thank you. Item D is the approval of the bylaws, dates, time, and plates of the meeting for the Board of Education. And so I like to make a motion. Because right now, we need to still be in here because we're still getting the cafeteria. Okay. All right, and so with the times, right? So I think we don't need to meet at 6 o'clock. How about meeting at 5:30 or 5 o'clock? I mean, is the board in agreement with that? 5:30? Okay. We get out a little bit earlier. All right, so. Yes.
No, he was just.
That's what I'm thinking, even 5 if we could have, because then you get in and you get out.
Well, Ms. Watley Seeds work, so.
Well, I get out, you get out at the same time I do. I get out 3 to 4 o'clock. Okay. Okay, all right,
And I work 25 minutes away.
okay, all right, 5:30 it is. And I don't know if you guys open up your PC, but you can see all of the meeting dates. So they're online as well for your perusal. And so we're gonna have a change of time to 5:30 for the meetings, correct? And our dates and times, are they okay with everyone?
Starts next week.
You got it.
Next week. Yeah.
All right, so I made a motion to approve the bylaws with a time change of 5:30 PM for meetings. And for the rest of for all of the calendar dates to remain the same. May I have a support?
Support.
All right. Any questions, comments before we call the roll? All right, Madam Secretary?
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Crowder.
Yeah.
Ms. Rush, yes, Ms. Watley Seeds, Ms. Buchanan.
Yes.
Mr. Bradley.
Yes.
Mr. Watson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So item E,
Can I ask you a question?
yes, ma'am.
So I'm just trying to make sure that I record all the votes right. So, Sue, I'm just gonna, I think we just approved the bylaws and the dates and the
Right.
place and the
On your
whatever.
time.
So I'm gonna do that as one vote, and then we have the next three one is for authorized agencies for funds. And then the next one is approval of law firms, and the next one is auditors, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
All right.
I'm up to date, sorry.
Okay, so item E is a resolution designating depositories and authorized agents for various funds and authority to make investments. This will be presented for board consideration by the end of the first month after the new superintendent begins Ben Harbor Area Schools employment. But you're here now, so can we present it today? Or do we have the resolution ready? Okay. Will we have it ready next week?
I think from a finance perspective, we need to have a little discussion before we.
So this will be just whoever, normally it's Scott Johnson and someone else for the depositories, because you have to have 2 people. Am I correct, Scott?
It's ideal to have more than one person. However, if Dr. Council is unavailable for the next month, it may be prudent to continue having Ms. Robinson on during that period as the second person.
Okay. Or you can have him as the second person.
You could, but if we're both unavailable, there would be nobody available authorized to this time.
Okay. So is that up to you,
To
Superintendent?
be here February 11th. Yeah, I can make it a priority for me to ensure that I'm here February 11th.
But I just want to raise a point of order, which is his contract doesn't start till February 17th. So he should not be making any, I mean, the interim superintendent is still Ms. Robinson.
Actually, his contract starts when he signed it, but it's like with a job, right? If I'm at my job and I get another job within my job, then I can still have my contract and transition out of my other employment.
But I mean, when I read his contract, it says that he starts February 17th.
So do we want to do it February 17th or?
Well, I mean, I don't know why we just can't leave this as it is until he starts. Or we can make a motion that the day he starts, he
Okay,
becomes the second
Okay.
signatory.
all right, let's make that motion.
Okay.
I agree. All right, so we have a motion on the floor that when February 7th comes, the 17th, the superintendent will be a member of 2 members, one of the 2 members designating depositories and authorized agents for various funds and authority to make investments in the district.
Correct.
Okay. All right, do we have a support? All right, so it's moved by Secretary Rush, supported by Treasurer Seats. Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, Madam Secretary?
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Crowder.
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Swatley Seeds.
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Watson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, so item F is approval of law firms Clark Hill, PLC, LaPointe and Butler, PLC, Miller, Canfield, Paddock and Stone, Seacrest, Waddle and Lynch, Troon Law Firm, PLC, and any other law firm approved by the superintendent before the board's 2020 and 2021 organizational meeting. So I have a question about that because I thought that we were going to vote on a law firm. I think it was February. Am I correct? Because I think that's what came out in the past. Because we haven't approved, we haven't even had a motion for an approval of a new law firm.
So again, I think this needs a little more time
Okay.
because it turns out, as I worked on different projects, that we need different lawyers for different things. So we may need an HR person for some things. But we definitely need a real estate person for some things, et cetera. So I think it would be good if we postponed this, tabled this till we straighten that out.
Yeah, because I know that in the past, I don't know if you guys remember that some of those emails came out, it was February for Troon, right? Because Troon's still working on a past contract that should have been voted on back before Herrera left, I think by June. And also in the past, we used, I think it was Clark Hill for our HR and as well as like Title IX issues. But I don't think we had all of these. I remember Miller Canfield in the past, but yes, a lot of other folks on here, right? And so we have to look at that. I think in the past, Mrs. Robinson, it was maybe 3. Now we've kind of added a bunch of people on here as well. I don't know where this came from. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna ask a question. You said maybe like 3 law firms. Is there one we can just work with to save on costs, or is it just because they have different areas?
They have different areas.
Okay.
and they're looking for different things.
So
All right.
I
You make a motion
I
to
make a
postpone?
motion to table this until we do an analysis of the areas that we need and what the alternatives are for firms. I just want to point out, though, this is not authorizing any contracts. This is just making a list of,
Yeah, but I don't know where this came from, because in the past, I saw that we were gonna hold out on hiring of Troon, and so now I'm looking at a list that has a whole bunch of things on it. So I don't know if Mrs. Robinson put this on here or whom put this on here.
This wasn't me.
Okay.
It may have been something from years prior.
Okay.
That we actually utilized.
Okay.
Oh,
Mr. Johnson has.
I prepared the list based on a review of the law firms used in the past few
The
years.
past, okay,
This is a partial list, not a complete list.
Okay. okay, right. Okay, so do you want to table or postpone? There's a difference, right?
What's the difference?
Well, I wouldn't table, I would try to postpone it that way. We may say, never bring it back up.
Okay, then I make a motion that we postpone this
All right.
until we evaluate. And I would say as part of that, we have certain things, like Thrum is handling a real estate contract for us that's been open for like 2 years, and we need to keep that same lawyer. We don't want to switch horses in midstream.
Mhm.
So I think we need to specify under each firm what they can continue.
Okay, all right. So we have a motion on the floor to postpone the approval of law firms. Do I have a support? All right, supported. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we call the roll? Secretary?
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Crowder,
yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Watley Seeds,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Watson.
Yes,
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. So at this time, we need to appoint auditors for the 2019-2020 fiscal year. Our past auditors have been Hungerford Nichols CPAs and Advisors. Do I have a motion to retain Hungerford Nichols CPAs and Advisors?
So moved.
All right, so we have a motion and we have a support by Mr. Bradley. Any questions, comments, concerns? Yes, sir.
when was the last time that there was any kind of RFP or any kind of request put out for auditors?
And so this is my 10th year on the board. I haven't seen it. So I think it's over 10 years.
Okay. Are there any plans, or is that something we can discuss at a later date to do that? And not to say that Hungerford hasn't done a good job. The question becomes, are we getting the best bang for our buck for the money that we're paying? And a lot of times what ends up happening is that companies get comfortable. And it's not to say that they're not doing the work, but it's a good thing. It's just good fiduciary responsibility as a board to at least look and see what's out there.
I agree. So were you proposing a motion to postpone this appointment for auditors?
What I would say is that I would go with what we have now, but moving forward, I would suggest that at a minimum that the board look at a cycle of putting that out for bid. And that's not just for this, but for other services, to make sure that, again, you're getting the best bang for your buck. And you're not, as people get comfortable, the price may go up. And the price may just exponentially go up just because they know that you're going to approve them. If you ask them to make sure that you see what the market is charging for services similar to this. So that's, like I said, that's just good practices.
We could postpone it, right, for a month and put it out. It's not going to hurt an audit. The audit has passed.
Then if that's the case, then what I would say is I would make a motion to postpone the vote on the approval of the auditors for the 2019-2020 fiscal year.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. We have a question.
So we, first of all, I'd like to say that Treasury, I think that Hungerford Nichols is one of their, I don't know what the.
Preferred vendors. Uh-huh.
And Hungerford Nichols has an excellent relationship with Treasury, which has been discussed with us with Ms. Parker and Jessica Thomas, who's the new person in charge of schools and Treasury. Second thing is that we've already agreed with Hungerford Nichols to do an intermediate audit. So with the idea that we have last year and the last couple of years, our number of citation findings went up. And so we have already set up a schedule for them to do like an intermediate audit. And that was something we presented to Treasury when we met with them in December. So I would not want to upset that apple cart.
Well,
I
I
mean,
think,
I agree with the idea of bidding things or doing RFPs, but I just don't know if we want to upset that apple cart right now.
well, I would say that Treasury has no bearing on what the board does when we, RFP or things like that. If they like them, that's great. But Treasury's has always worked with Plant Moran too, I believe, Mr. Watson, right? Just like the city. So, and you see, we have Plant Moran here to do a type of forensic maintenance type deal. So that shouldn't stop us. I mean, they're not going to go against you because you do an RFP. And I think when you guys talk about an agreement, was that agreement made at the board table with Hungerford?
No, it was not. It was an extension of their previous agreement, which was to do an intermediate audit. And it's it's a longer discussion, but it's what in particular, what we're trying to do is look at the findings from the last audit. And when Hungerford Nichols made their presentation here, which was, I think, November-ish, I mentioned it in my finance report.
Okay, so any other questions, comments? We have a motion on the floor to postpone the approval of Hungerford as for our appointment of our auditors. Any other questions? Because we still have a motion on the floor and we have to go through the motion. So I support the motion. Well, it's not foolish. He has a motion, he has a right. You asked today for us to hold off on Troon and et cetera, right? So he has a right to do that as well. All right. So if there's no other questions, comments, or concerns, please call the roll for the vote.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Ms. Crowder? No. Ms. Rush? No. Ms. Watley Seeds?
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, so that's on hold. All right, so we have item H, which is readoption of the current board policies from Neola. According to bylaw 0131.1, the board is not required to annually approve the policies. The district receives new policy templates and proposes policy revisions twice per year, and the board subsequently approves new policies and policy revisions. So I don't know why that item is on here if we don't have to approve it. It was on the last one? Okay.
So if we could take that off, I'll go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, because Neola, like tonight, you guys have new Neola policies, right, that have been brought forth, so they keep an update. So any questions concerning item H? All right, so I'm gonna pass the baton over to our assistant superintendent, because at this time it's the election of officers for the 2020 calendar year. And so I called the meeting to order based on policy. I served as the presiding officer until the election of the temporary chairperson, who shall in turn serve until the election of a president. All right, so first item up is president, and I'm going to defer that to Mrs. Robinson, and so you will call the vote for president.
All right, so I have my instructions. Any recommendations for president?
I recommend Dr. Patricia Rush. Second.
So there has been a recommendation and a second and support for Dr. Patricia Rush. And we will call roll.
So we,
Any questions?
yeah, so we have,
Discussion.
yeah, so we, just like with superintendent and things like that, we have more recommendations. So
How we do?
we put all the recommendations on the floor. So I nominate myself for president.
I would support that.
Any other recommendations? We have two candidates, Dr. Patricia Rush and Mr. Taylor. Both have been supported. And so we will need a vote, and we will start with Dr. Rush. Which is nomination. Your call. Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Taylor,
No.
Ms. Crowder.
You call Pat Rush?
Dr. Rush.
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Watley Seeds?
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan?
No.
Mr. Bradley?
No.
Mr. Watson?
No.
Motion fails.
We will now call the recommendation for Mr. Taylor to be president for the 2020 school year.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Ms. Crowder?
No.
Ms. Rush, no. Ms. Watley Seeds?
No.
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes. Congratulations.
All right, thank you. So at this time, we'll have a motion open for vice president. Anyone would like to recommend someone for vice president?
I nominate Ms. Crowder.
All right, we have a nomination of Mrs. Crowder and a support. I'd like to nominate Matthew Bradley.
I would support that.
Any other nominations on the floor for vice president? Please call the roll.
This is for Ms. Crowder as vice president. Mr. Taylor,
No.
Ms. Crowder. Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Watley Seeds?
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan?
Yes.
Mr. Bradley? Mr. Watson?
No.
Okay, motion passes.
All right. So nominations or votes for Matthew Bradley?
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Ms. Crowder?
No.
Ms. Rush? No. Ms. Watley Seeds?
No.
Ms. Buchanan?
No.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Motion passes. Motion fails.
Correct.
Sorry.
All right. So Mrs. Crowder is the vice president. At this time, we have a vote on the table or a nomination for secretary. Is there a nomination for secretary?
Pat Rush.
All right. Mrs. Rush is nominated for secretary. Any other nominations?
Watson.
Okay, so we have Mr. Watson for secretary as well. All right. Any questions before we call the roll?
Mr. Taylor? I'm sorry, this is Rush's secretary.
No.
Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Watley Seeds.
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yeah.
Mr. Bradley,
No.
Mr. Watson.
No.
Okay,
All right.
go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. So now we have the nomination for Mr. Watson.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Crowder,
No.
Ms. Rush, no. Ms. Watley Seeds.
No.
Ms. Buchanan,
No.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Watson.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm the new secretary.
All right. So at this
I
time.
voted wrong. I should have given this to Mr. Watson.
So now we have a motion for treasurer. I nominate Lou Buchanan. Give her a chance at the wheel. All right, so we have a nomination for Lou Buchanan. Any other nominations?
What you say? It don't bother me at all. I mean, whoever wants to be treasurer, I'll be treasurer now. But my thing is to make sure we doing right by our students in this kind of school.
Okay,
So whatever y'all want to say.
all right, so I didn't hear any other nominations. So we'll call the roll.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes. Ms. Watley Seeds.
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes. I guess that's
Mr. Bradley, Mr. Watson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I know we're in the middle of election, but if we had money in the treasury, that would be fine with Mr. Buchanan.
Hey, we don't
We
want
ain't got
to.
no money.
Yeah, that's right. Don't mess with the money.
Thank you very much.
All right. All right, so I just got to get back to the agenda. All right, so next item up is the conflict of interest disclosure form. So all we have to do is fill that out. If you don't have a conflict, check the first box. If you have a conflict, check the second box and write down the conflict. Yes, sir.
So, I do have a question about this. So, do you have any family that works for like a contracted service, like for the bus company or anything, for a conflict or?
I don't believe so. We can talk to the attorneys because I believe this came from Troon. But I mean, in a district like this, for example, you're gonna have some relatives, right? That are gonna work in the district, but I think it's different if you were, I think we had discussed something with Mr. Watson before about like him working at a real estate company and voting on real estate, things like that. Yes,
So,
ma'am.
but that's the purpose of the second thing.
Second
here,
box, yes.
Which is that people should stay, like, if he has relatives that work for the bus company, he should state that.
Yeah, you can state that, and then we'll see with, we'll ask Troon if it's valid or not, but at least we state it, to your point. All right, so any other questions, comments concerning the conflict of interest and disclosure form? All right, so next item, Mr. Bradley asked to put on the agenda, the board superintendent relations, as well as, I think it was, what was the other item, Mr. Bradley?
Aware Institute for MASB.
Okay. And so in front of you guys, you have the MASB winter sign-up sheet. So if you guys want to take classes, I'll let you have the floor, Mr. Bradley, to talk about this.
All right, good evening, everyone. I do apologize for my delay at work and got carried over. I sent in a PowerPoint presentation that was presented at the conference I attended back in November about superintendent board relations. And I think it's very vital that we all take a look at that. Do forgive, I did write some notes on there because they were so informative, but there was a lot discussed about that. And I know we have a new superintendent coming in. And I definitely want, us to get off on the right start with this current superintendent and going out into the future where we have a protocol in place for that. So if you I scroll down right quick, I'm trying to make it brief. I don't want to hold up the meeting. If you look at there, they have a couple areas that they discussed that was very important. And there's also with superintendent tenure, there, was talking about the tenure and student achievement. And then also this, I want to say this class was held by, was conducted by a former superintendent that's from the Grand Rapids area. And so if you go down and one thing that they discussed that stuck out with me was a few things that stuck out with me. Does the board set direction? Our vision, our mission, board policy, the budget, our self-assessment as a board, and student achievement. Then the other thing that stuck out with me also was if you scroll down, and they talked about trust. The superintendent has to have trust with us as a board, and we have to trust the superintendent. I know that goes back to when we had our last superintendent, Dr. Herrera. We had a lot of trust issues that were going on, and so that's why I felt that it was very vital that I take this course, because we have to establish that trust system, and then we have to also make sure that we allow the superintendent to come in and do their work, and then we also have to make sure that we're doing our end as a board. So if you all want to take a look at that PowerPoint is there for you all to take a look at. The second thing is the Winter Institute is coming up for the Michigan Association of School Boards. And I wanted this included in the packet because I think it's very vital that we do, as a board, take training to make sure that we are all on the equal footing. They do offer online classes, and also the Winter Institute is going to be in Lansing. They have courses all through there. The Board 101, which I would suggest that anyone on the board takes that. That's very, very informative. You have a chance to meet new board members, some who have been on the board for a long time from across the state. And I mean, when I took that Board 101, it opened my eyes up to a lot of things. Then the other thing they have is a board president's workshop also is going on. But if you look on the back of that handout, they also have what the courses are. So, I mean, if you're free that weekend, it would be something that would definitely would be very beneficial to the board to get up and go up there, and also to some of the school administrators if you all want to go as well, take some courses. So.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. And for those who haven't taken the 101, that's like a requirement as well, right? So if you can't make it, you can always do it online. All you have to do is reach out to Sue. Sue can sign up with the credit card, right? And you guys can get that done, because what happens with board members is that they overstep, and the 101 class will show you not to micromanage, not to overstep. It gives you guidelines. It doesn't give you a guess. It gives you facts, right? Because we can't guess, we have to abide by rules and regulations of the state. All right, so thank you again, Mr. Bradley.
And I was gonna add, I don't know when we'll do a retreat, but definitely when we do a retreat, there's a lot that we need to go over and, set up a vision and stuff, as going forward and everything.
Yeah, I think we need to do that when Dr. Townsend comes over to take the helm. That way we're all on the same page and see his mission and vision for the district as well. All right, so Mrs. Seats, if you could give us an update on the advisory board.
Okay, good evening. Okay, so we had our meeting actually yesterday, and very good turnout of all the members, pretty good turnout of community as well. So I'm just going to give you a brief update on what happened, what went on. There were, of course, the 4 subcommittees that are part of the CEAC, the Community Engagement and Advisory Committee. And each of those subcommittees presented a report up to this date. That information has been compiled together and presented to the chair so that as we still continue to compile more information, we're going to be meeting the week of, I think, the 20th. And during that week time, because after all of this information is compiled, so what the question is, what are we going to do with all this information? Okay, so that's what we're going to be sitting down talking about on the 20th. It's going to be a planning meeting to evaluate the information in more detail so that it can be eventually presented to the community. There's also a survey, an online survey, and you can also do it you can write in as well, but there's an online survey. It's a pre-assessment to get community input, and that survey closes on the 31st of this month. So, and to this point, we've had over 300 surveys already submitted. So if you know anybody out there that, our community, we need to make sure that, our community is involved in this and making sure that they're aware. So, there is information that they can attain. You can go to our website, Benton Harbor Area School website, and click on a link to that. You should be able to follow it and find that. It's a SurveyMonkey survey. Okay, so also, let's see here. We did have some public comment. And, I do want to talk about a teacher, a very compassionate teacher that is here at Benton Harbor High School. And she's been a teacher here since 2007. We've done great strides in our hiring process, and I won't deny that, and compiling all this data. But after listening to this young lady that's been a teacher here since 2007, we really, really, really need to do better. I don't have a teaching degree. I make more money than she does. Not to say that I don't deserve that, okay? But we need to do better for our teachers that have been here. From what I understand, there was a pay freeze 8 years ago. Okay, then there was a 10% pay cut. Now she's at from what I understand, a step 4, and I won't disclose what she makes, but she was here last night, public, she probably doesn't mind me telling you what she makes. She makes $36,000 a year. She has 2 children, lives here in Benton Harbor. That's really all I have to say about that. We really need to do better. We're hiring new teachers, and that's wonderful. But we need to do better with what we have so we can keep what we have, because she's committed. She's been here since 2007. So enough said on that. An upcoming event this Saturday, the 11th. It's going to be at the, I consider next to Second Baptist Church. It's the, you community people know the name of that building. Okay, Sinbad Center. Okay, I'll graduate with Sinbad. I should know that. Anyway, it's this week, this Saturday. Yep. So it's going to be Sinbad's at Sinbad's Imaginasium, 2020 Meeting of the Minds and a Day of Action. It's going to be a great community event. I really wish I could be there. I have a funeral to attend in Omaha, so I won't be there, but I really wanted to attend. Here's the information on that if you can. I think that's about all. If anybody has any questions or concerns.
Do you know who's sponsoring the meeting of the minds or whatever it is?
That's Miss Eleanor Gant.
Okay.
Peace for Life.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. 8 years ago, they did vote to take 10% salary away. And I think it was only 2 board members who didn't do that. And I was one of them. And at that time, I remember the statement I made was, you do that and we'll see people flee the district. And that's what we've seen, right? You can't take away the asset and expect the asset to stay here. Because when you can go up the road or across the street and get $10,000 more or whatever, right? You're going to do it, right? Because it's about supporting your family. So I concur. I would just say, that teachers, right now we're in a bind, right? So we have to keep our doors open, and hopefully we can figure out a way to help them. And maybe the state can tip in too, right? Because when you have a budget deficit, right, it's really hard. It's a cash cow. But thank you so much. Are you gonna announce as well the other portion of that? Okay.
So, board members, I sent you an email this afternoon, and there's a handout at your place about the Plant Moran survey. So, as part of Michigan Treasury's commitment to the combined state Treasury, MDE, and Benton Harbor Advisory and Community Engagement Committee, the state is willing to pay an outside physical plant consultant, Plant Moran Cressa, and they are going to come and do a survey of our facilities. They're on a very tight timeline, which is in the last page of your handout. The state has required them to get this complete by the end of January. So that means that they're going to start tomorrow. And they will be here starting at the high school tomorrow morning at 8:30, and then move out to all the other schools. So one of the discussion items last night was whether they're going to do all the Benton Harbor schools, or whether they're going to focus on just the occupied schools. And the decision of the Treasury was to focus on the occupied schools and possibly a few schools that could be reopened if we were able to increase our student population. And we can request that they, in the future, look at all of the vacant schools. What was discussed, and I don't know exactly all the history of this all was discussed last night, is according to the state, we know that there have been multiple physical plant studies over the past 8 years or so. And what has been repeatedly found is that a lot of the school buildings, most of the school buildings were built in the early 1960s, and they've been closed from between 5 and 20 years. And so the facilities are in great disrepair, plus they have asbestos, lead paint, blah, blah, blah. So the part of what Plant Moran will help us look at is the amount of money it would take if we even had the students to bring those facilities up to date versus demolition costs and selling off the land. According to the state, the Benton Harbor School Board considered demolition of several of those schools in the past, but that was voted down because the idea was, well, maybe someday we'll get to reopen them. So the basic estimate is that reopening most of these schools, because they have to be brought up to current standards, would be in the tens of millions of dollars per school. So we're looking at short-term, trying to take the schools that are currently occupied and bring them up to standard, and then decide what to do with the other schools. But anyway, this is going to start tomorrow. And so Mr. Boone from Physical Plant will be arranging someone from the district to accompany them, and then the principals of each school will be informed when they're coming out.
Any questions from the board? I have one. I don't, you guys can't answer this question, but it's just a comment. 2 years ago, we had an assessment by, I think it was CMB or whatever. They're one of the biggest in the state of Michigan. So did anyone offer up the information that we had an assessment and that maybe they can take part of that assessment?
Yes, and Mr. Johnson already provided them copies of that.
And so they're still going to do an assessment even though there was an assessment 2 years ago?
Well, I would say, for example, the assessments that we've had in the past said that the roofs need to be replaced, and no action was taken to replace those roofs. So yes, they need to go out and do another assessment.
Okay, and just for the board, to give you guys an update, because I've been on this board this is 10 years. And so some of that stuff is not factual. Because if you look at the GMB or CMB assessment, and Scott's seen that assessment, it talks about the age of a roof. For example, if you look at Boynton School, for example, it may say it still has 10 years of life, right? If you look at Fairplain West or something, it may say you still have 15 years of life. So that's the true assessment. So when they get on the roof or whatever, they're going to assess to see if the roof is gone, 0 to whatever years, or 5 to 10, 15 to 20, et cetera. And so we've done those assessments, and there's another misnomer too, as the Treasury is stating it, is that the board wanted to knock down certain schools, but at the table, we voted against it. I don't think that's factual either. I think in order to knock down a building, you need funds, right? And so you can use sinking funds, but at that time, some of those buildings, we didn't have the funds. Some of the buildings we did leave up in order to grow the district. And for example, when the superintendent goes and talks to the deputy treasurer, as I was mentioning to her on the phone, that one of the things that Dr. Townsend said in his interview was that maybe we're moving our kids too much, right? In this district, we moved them 5 times. Maybe if we did a K through 6 like every other district around us, now you would only move your kids 3 times, K through 6, 6, 7, and 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. She thought it was a great idea. So I don't think that Treasury is against some of this, right? And they're just looking at us to see if we can fill students. I think they're going to look at it from this operational plan as what's in the best interest of our district. It's not about just opening a school, but if we could maybe take his idea, and he'll get a chance to talk to her about it. I made her aware of it. She thought it was a wonderful idea because in her district, she don't see 1 through 3. She doesn't see 4, 5. She doesn't see 6, 7, and 8 like that, all those changes. So that's just a different idea, but that's a real update of how they do that assessment, right? So it's not just, I haven't seen where we had a roof that wasn't corrected, because even over our gym, we corrected that, right? We have piping in this building that would cost us $5 million. So we haven't corrected that. That'll take away all of your sinking fund money, right? So we've piecemealed it a little bit at a time. So that's just my update on that. All right, superintendent updates, Mrs. Robinson.
I just have a couple of updates. Number one, we will be bringing next week to you all a recommendation for approval for a special education supervisor or director. So that will come to you with the approval for next week. The other thing I want to do is just officially, openly, and publicly welcome Dr. Townsend aboard. I look forward, I'm excited about working with you for the school year. So look forward to that alignment and working and collaboration. So, and then also just one last thing is I want to thank the board openly and publicly as well for the opportunity to serve as interim for the past 6 months. I certainly appreciate the opportunity and experience. So, and that is it.
Thank you. As for the curriculum and instruction subcommittee report, we reported and there wasn't anything to report. All right. So at this time, we have our Neola policy updates, our first readings. And as you can see, they're everything from administration to program to professional staff, students, finance, property operations. And Sue was kind enough to create a physical copy for us to take home, to look at before we approve next week. But just as a reminder to the board that we pay Neola to update our policies so that we don't have to. And so, the policies except administration are done by the board. So when the superintendent comes aboard, you guys will be looking at administration policies, the board will be looking at the rest. So we don't touch their policies and they still have input in ours, but it's up to the board to make sure that our policies are intact. But just an update to know that Neola is already updated. We pay for that service. And so they keep us updated, based on law. So do we have any questions? Did we want to go through this, or you guys want to go through this at home? And then if you have any questions, we can bring them to the table next week. Is that fair? Okay.
President Taylor,
Yes, ma'am.
I just have one thing that I want to bring to you all's attention. It's policy 7300
Yep.
Regarding the real estate. So right now, within our policies, it's under operations. Within Neola, they have it under finances. So we really need to make a decision about which one we want to.
And so, Mr. Watson, you guys, that's something we can think about, right? Whether it goes under, the offer goes under the financial office based on the recommendation of Neola, or you guys can keep it the same as in the past. It's our choice. So that's food for thought for next week as well. All right, Mr. Johnson, Business and Finance.
We'll take a quick walk through some of the financial reports. Start with the general fund summary of vendor payments. Our total general fund payments for the month was a little over almost $633,000. The 2007 Capital Projects Fund or Sinking Fund, we dispersed a little over $30,000. There were no disbursements in the newer 2017 Sinking Fund. Check register detail list is provided in the packet. And we also have the year-to-date budget summary report. And this is becoming more meaningful now that we're almost halfway through the fiscal year. You'll see that we've received most of the budget amount for local revenue, and that's because we have 100% summer tax collection. Moving a few pages back, we have a new report this month. This is the 2007 and 2017 sinking fund cash flow spreadsheets. This was used to develop the investment purchases that are shown on the next report, the new investment report. This report shows all the district's CDs. We have one for the general fund, one for the food service fund, and 5 for the 2017 sinking fund. And based on these CDs, we expect to generate almost $52,000 in interest earnings for the life of these CDs. Be happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board? All right, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Secretary Rush, Business and Finance Subcommittee report.
Just what was already discussed.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Ms. Gale, Human Resources.
Human Resources, we have a list of new hires and terminations. With your permission, I would like to read the names at the next board meeting when it is up for a vote. We have a list of, I believe, 4 hires and 7 terminations. Oh, more than 7, 8.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Watson, anything from Facilities Operation Committee?
No, sir. We will be meeting this month, and but for as far as anything to update, not at this time.
Okay. And also I contacted our attorneys, so we're going to be getting out of that crazy RISA contract because as you see today, Mr. Boone's not even at this table. How many times has he been at this table for board meetings, right? He's paid by the district. He has to work for the district. And so that will be done pronto because we're paying them over $100,000. We can buy our own person to do the job. And so I'm going to also ask Troom to look into stilling of time, because if you're not here working and you're working at RISA, then you're violating our contract. And so we have to look at that. It's kind of like what Trustee Watson said, right, we have to be on the lookout. We have to be mindful. And so, as I say, the board president had to go check on the leak because nobody responded to an email. And then the email got responded to the next day. And I gave you guys the answer, and then he came back with the same answer. So I go out at night with a flashlight to look at a leak, which that's not my job. But I'm here because I love the school and I do the work. So I don't mind going out with a flashlight, but when we pay a person or, RISA for $100-some thousand to do it, I think they should do their job.
Right on. Mr. Taylor, can I
Yes, ma'am.
comment? So, I think one of the goals, as long as I've been here, is to transition out of the Berry and RISA contracts. I want to, give caution with regard to the payroll and the accounts payable part of the contract. As you know, we've discussed this in the Finance Committee. Mr. Johnson and I, with the assistance of Baird and Ms. Gale, have completely revised the payroll processes, et cetera. But we need like a transition date with RISA, but we cannot just cut off RISA without hiring somebody of our own. If we cut off RISA and where our person is not trained, we will not be able to process payroll, and we will not be able to pay our vendors. And I think that would be a tragic mistake. We also are probably going to be at risk for paying unemployment if we can't terminate the contracts early. So it may be the decision of the board to go ahead and take that risk, but I would caution us not to take any risk that imperils the payroll and paying vendors on time.
Well, I would say that if you look at, Mrs. Robinson, help me out here. We made a statement, or in your letter, you said that you guys were going to start your hiring process as of, I think it's December. So we're in the process of hiring, so we shouldn't worry about that. And as for Troy Boone, remember all the board members that were here at this table at their retreat said it was time for us to close that contract out ASAP.
But
And so-
I think physical plant is significantly different than payroll and.
But the assistant superintendent already stated that in an email to all board members that they were posting the jobs. So you guys are aware of that. It's not anything new. It's not coming from me. It's already getting posted. So I didn't do that. That's already been done. And
Mr. Taylor,
yes, ma'am.
if I
Yes.
may just, you're right that we're in the process of recruiting for those positions. I just want to make the board aware that even if the qualified person got hired today, we would not be physically able to process payroll because the systems are not currently in place. This is done, it is not a simple process. It's not only the processing of the payroll, it is the type of reporting that is done with the state of Michigan and various agencies. We need to make sure that the district stays in compliance. And we're looking for at least at a minimum 3-month overlap period where RISA has agreed to help us transition.
And so the contract in question I was talking about was Mr. Boone's, right? And I think we talked before about the transition of the others to around March or whatever I think it was in the past. No, it was Mr. Boone. That's what the board agreed to because that contract has been null and void for a long time. So I concur. Any other questions?
Listening to that conversation on the contracts, and that was for the payroll, and you were saying about the systems, all that is complicated. Is there something that we can delay until maybe like the summer, so that way it won't be a disruption to staff during the school year? If we have to, if that happens.
You would have to talk to HR and finance, but I don't think you would have a delay, right, on the payroll. They're just asking for a overlap, right, to transition the new employees that they may hire into having a process of payroll. All right, so any items under other? Any discussion items?
the interim period with Dr. Townsend. So I know there was an email that went out about just decision-making, hiring processes and things like that. So am I to work with Dr. Townsend? He gives me direction, I bring it back to the board. How, can you clarify that?
I would say for Dr. Townsend, right, so what we discussed was, you know, allowing our superintendent to be a part of that process. And then I gave the superintendent your number to reach out because we know the special ed interviews are getting ready to happen, right? That way, at least he can be there with you to kind of look at the candidates, right? Because we don't want just to come in here and just shoot the whole gun off, right, and do what we want, for example. And I'm not saying you, I'm saying the district, right? And then just hire right quick or do whatever, right? We want to give him a chance to build his team as well. But we know that it is a emergency because when we talk about not interrupting kids, right, that we know that special ed is a necessity. So that's something that has to go down even without the superintendent present, right? I hope that helps.
Yeah.
All right, so any discussion items? So we'll go with 2 superintendent comments. We'll start off with our assistant, and then we'll go with comments from our new superintendent.
I don't have any more.
Okay. All right.
The only comments I like to make is that I really can't wait to get started, get on board with the team here, work, and really level up in every aspect of what Benton Harbor needs. So I'm very excited about the opportunity. Thank you. I just can't wait to get started and work with the team, and the future is very bright. I feel that.
All right. Thank you, sir. At this time, we have board member comments, starting with Mr. Watson.
Just again like to welcome Dr. Townsend on board officially. Wish everyone a happy new year and look forward to the work that needs to be done in this district going forward in the new decade and new perspective. That's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Bradley.
I want to say good evening to everyone once again. We'd like to welcome Dr. Townsend. Thank you, Ms. Robinson, for your service for us during the interim period, and we're going to be looking forward to working with you even during this transition. And we're praying that everything goes smooth. We're praying for our district. Everyone here who does pray, make sure that you pray for us because this is, you know, a lot of stuff going on. But I'm glad that a lot of stuff is smoothing out. And I want to say blessings to everyone in the new year, to my fellow board members. Blessings to you as well.
Thank you. Ms. Lou.
Thank you, Mr. President. And 2, I see we have Reverend Lynch. I admire you. I hear you on radio, on your TV talking, you talking real talk. And I would like to welcome the mayor of the city of Benton Harbor to our board meeting. I read all about, I got the newspaper, what happened, and so and so and so and so. And also, Mr. Triplett, I'm working on something for you. You are needed, whether we get him or not, he is needed. I know what I'm talking about. I've seen him take 80 boys, walk from Red Avenue Highway to 962 Birch Street. And some of those young men that was in my yard, he was trained. And those young men that worked at the bank, they got jobs. I mean, they're doing great. Sort of like Steve Harder mentoring program. You're needed, okay? Our kids are hurting. I talked to the principal yesterday. We got to have a meeting in the gym. If we don't do something for them, let them know what's going on, they're going to continue to do what they're doing. So put them all in one room. I talked to the president. Have a meeting and let them know. And if that don't work, we get in there, if 5 people pick up 5 cans, that's 50 cents. We got enough people that have been hired to get out and hustle bottles and cans for us to pay this debt. Because we're losing our kids, the kids that don't want nothing. Some of these kids don't care. We got to weed them out. And so if that be the case, one lady told me she's going to take her kid to St. Joe. She went over there in October and she called me. You were right, Miss Buchanan. I ain't going to say what she said to me. But guess where the kid at? Dream Academy. Because they couldn't make it in St. Joe. let's continue to pray for one another and help one another. That's the main thing. And I love all of you guys. And I always do it. I'm not trying to be funny or nothing. But come February the 5th is my birthday. And when I first got on the board, Dan McGinnis was the president. And he bought me a nice gift. I still got it. So remember that. February 5th is my birthday. I love all of you. And I'm going to continue to be me. Thank you.
Thank you. Treasurer Seats.
To come after that. I appreciate you. I just want to say thank you so much, Patricia, for your time as been acting and interim superintendent during that time. We appreciate that. Welcome, Dr. Townsend. Really looking forward to working with you. So excited about that. Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you, community, for coming out. We really appreciate that. And go bring a neighbor, okay? Thank you.
Secretary Rush.
Dr. Townsend, it's great to see you. Thank you for making this trip all the way here just for the short thing. And thanks, Trish, and really all the staff for all your excellent work back there. You too, Miranda. You too. Thank you.
Vice President.
Happy New Year, everyone. I'd like to formally thank interim Superintendent Patricia Robinson. She did an excellent job for us. We love her here. We want to continue to work with her. Congratulations, Dr. Townsend, but you have a fantastic assistant superintendent sitting next to you. And Ms. Robinson, she's very intelligent and knowledgeable about this district. She knows so much. I've been in the district 35 years and then 5 years of my retirement. Well, 6 now, I'm still here on the board. But she knows a lot. So use her, wisely. She'll serve you well. Okay, don't try to bring anybody to place her. I snuck that in there. And I think we should make February 5th Lou Buchanan Day. Thank you.
And so I echo what everybody else said, Trish. We thank you for always stepping up to the plate when we needed you for the past several years. So appreciate that. And thank you for jumping in and working with Dr. Townsend. Dr. Townsend, congratulations. We've said it a couple of times, but this time it's official like a whistle, right? And so I just want to say to this board and to this community, right? We still have work to do. I think a lot of times people around us, they think that this fight is over, but it's not. This fight is just beginning. We don't have any beef with the governor or the treasury or anything like that because we're lockstep in trying to create the best educational system we can for our students and our communities of Benton Harbor area schools. But at the same time, right, we always have to be mindful and we have to make sure that we correct our corrective actions, right? And look out for what's necessary. And we just gotta be the best board we can be for this year. As Mrs. Seats, as you go about your way on that advisory board, right? Keep doing the good work. If you need me for anything, I'm here to help. I know all the tricks of the trades with those guys, right? I've done it for a while. So I'm just here to help. And let's make sure that we all ask the correct questions, even in that operational or advisory committee that's going to create that operational plan. And we want to make sure that our voices are heard as well, right? Because it's going to be a team effort from the governor's office, the state, treasury, and MDE, right? It's not going to be one-sided, right? Because a team gives and gets, right? That's how we create this business plan. And so to the community, right? Let's keep fighting. Also, you know, bring your kids back when you think we've changed, right? Because sometimes, you know, we always ask, bring them back. Well, we have to show and prove. So we have to show the work, right? In order to gain the student. So I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. May I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting? Yes.
I would like to say to the one that here to know her. Owen Cole called me yesterday and prayed for his mother. You know, she get close to 100, but I had to call her pastor, Maurice McAfee, and tell him too. just pray for Betty Sherman, because I know it was a lot of uniform time. Mr. Triplett was coaching the Bard Eagles and all that, that I had my uniform cleaned for 50 cents. So when you go to bed tonight or on your way home, tell God about Betty Sherman. Bless her in a special way. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lou. So may I have a motion to close tonight's meeting? Moved by Mr. Bradley, supported by who? Supported by Mr. Watson. Madam Secretary?
President Taylor,
Yes.
Vice President Crowder,
Yes.
Ms. Rush, yes, Ms. Watley Seats,
Yes.
Ms. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Watson.
Yes.
Motion passes. We are adjourned.
All right.